So I need a strong, wise volunteer for this morning. Back for one day, you've got to be able to voluntold. Here in the service, you know how this works. So I have a simple task for you. You have a string. You are going to grab that string by either end. Once you grab that string, you cannot let go of it. And you need to tie it in a knot. Nope, you got to grab it with both hands. Nope, you can't let go of it. You got to keep hold of it. No. Once you grab it, you can't change your grasp. No. Now pull it. I need a knot. That's not a knot, it's a loop. Try to get out. Viola, you keep trying. You had to let go of something, I know you did. Will you teach our enlightened one here how this works? Top and bottom, yep. Other than just having fun with them, there's a point to this. We're at the mountain today with James, Peter, and John. But why did Jesus just take those three? Why not all the disciples? Why not everybody who could possibly get there to see him transfigured? Well, maybe the rest of them weren't at that point on their journey that they could accept it. Maybe it was to teach them a lesson because two of them had been arguing shortly before this about who the greatest of them was going to be. Maybe they just weren't ready for that wisdom yet. Or maybe Jesus just really needed to have a small core group that was going to be enlightened. And it wasn't the ones you would think it would be. You see, we go to the mountain all the time. We've got the story. We've got the rest of the story. My question is how often are we like Peter and we see everything that's happening and go, oh, I know what we should do now. Let's paint the church pink. No? We don't want to paint the church pink? What do we need to do as a congregation, folks? What's going to bring more people in? Spread the word. Okay, great. What word? God. I hear God's name used quite often. It's not bringing anybody else in. So we're going to spread the word. Okay, what word are we spreading? Yes, Lord. Is it love? Is it hope? What do you need to hear this morning? And you, is it the same thing? We'll let that one go. Each of us is at our own point in the journey. Each of us has our own understanding and our own experience of God. Each of us has our own understanding of the history of what's happened here. I mean, if I ask Lois the history of the church, I'm going to get one story. If I ask Ciola for the history of the church, it's going to be much shorter and be different. Because most of her time at this church has been spent in this building. That's not the case for Lois. Most of her history was in the other building, with other pastors, with other stuff, with other people. Her experience and knowledge is different. Does it make it any less? No. In fact, she might know something that Lois doesn't, like how to reach her own age group. Right? So we can't discard her. I mean, right? She might might know the answer. She might have seen a different thing based off of God's plan and the experience God places in her lives. In her life. We each have that, don't we? Who here would like to erase a few things from their memory? Some experiences that they've had. Things that didn't quite go the way they had hoped it would go. Pains that either have been caused to them or they have caused. There's none of us that don't have something we'd like to not have to think about again, right? And yet, don't those make us who we are? Don't those give us wisdom that we didn't have before? An experience? Even as we go up the mountain this morning with Peter, James, and John, and we sit there, our experience of this is different. Because we know. Peter sounds like an oath, doesn't he? Lord, I can build 3 dwelling places for you here. For 2 people that have not been around for centuries, and you. If it were today's world, we'd be getting Peter some help, wouldn't we? There's medication for this. He's seeing things. People that don't exist anymore. There's something wrong. But we know the rest of the story, don't we? Has anybody here seen a miracle? Really? On a regular basis. It's February. Have you been outside? The snowmobilers don't think it's a miracle, do they? Nope. But boy, it sure feels nice to walk out in that sunshine, doesn't it? Experience God's beauty. Bright and shining. Imagine what it must have been like for the disciples for the first time to be standing up on that mountain. And all of a sudden, there's this great, big, bright light. And it's Jesus. And he's glowing. His clothes have changed to dazzling white. They are seeing him differently. And experiencing him differently. It's a metaphor for our faith, isn't it? I can't tell you the exact moment that it happened. But I can tell you that when it did, and my perspective changed, that suddenly faith meant a whole lot more. But it was a series of events that had happened. And I probably sounded just as much of an adult as Peter did. Anybody here ever gotten really excited about something and had to tell everybody about it? Zach? He's hiding, okay. You're just so excited. You've learned this new thing and you got to tell everybody about it. You know, if you do it just this way. Lois, do you get that excited anymore? No? As we get older, we start to realize some things aren't as important as we have to push them on everybody. But we're for us to share, but not to expect that just because I say it, Tony's going to do it. Okay? I'm not going to use Tony's workout, ever. Why? I don't have that muscular build. I don't. Not only that, it's much easier for me to touch my toes. I'm closer to the floor. Those aren't so bad. We have these things we experience, and God asks us to go out and talk about, to share. We often miss one of the most important things in this whole passage, though. There's a beautiful white cloud that shows up, dazzling, and overshadows them. And from it you hear a voice. And it says, "This is my beloved." What's the rest of it? What? Listen to him. Oh, I'm sorry. Can somebody say, "In who I am well pleased"? I apologize. I missed that piece to it. Memory is not doing me favors today. In whom I am well pleased. Listen to him. If you read the rest of the scripture going on from there, Jesus starts into some pretty harsh teachings. He begins us on this journey of mystery that we're about to go on, called Lent. Starts talking about his own death, how things are going to happen, and that he's going to be resurrected 3 days after they kill him. Again, we'd be checking him into the psychiatric ward, right? They can't understand it. They don't know the rest of the story. Poor Jesus, he's under too much stress. Right? I mean, if one of your beloved family members started telling you that they were going to die soon and 3 days later be resurrected, would you not give them some help? You wouldn't believe them. You don't know the rest of the story. They don't have the experience yet. And even throughout the rest of Scripture, as you're reading what the disciples do through the Acts of the Apostles, as you read through Paul's letters, how often do they not understand? Did you hear the letter from Peter today? We didn't talk to you in some mystical myths, mysterious and mind-boggling. But we told you the truth of what we'd seen. Anybody here experienced Christ? Has it been pretty mundane? You remember holding her for the first time? Pretty amazing, wasn't it? You hold that little miracle, and you realize you have no idea what you've gotten yourself into. And it's a journey on which we learn. We are about to enter that journey. But here's the problem, folks. You know what you have to do in order to truly experience the journey? You got to leave the house. You got to participate. You have to bring yourself in each worship service, in each opportunity you have to experience that mystery of God. If you came this morning looking for a miracle, there's only one way you're going to experience it. If you put your whole self into it. Because the miracle is happening all around you, isn't it? But do you notice it if you're not attentive? Can you even possibly see it? Unless, of course, it just happens to come up and slap you on the back of the head. I wouldn't suggest trying that with Dad. I saw you look. Not a good idea. You're the miracle at the moment, but if we don't participate, if we don't join in, at whatever level we're at, wherever we are on the journey, you can't be a part of the mystery. Then you're just the person reading the novel, right? How many people here are the ones that go to the last chapter? Find the end out first? You already know the rest of the story! But you're missing something. You're missing today's experience. The knowledge that God has for you today. The climbing to the top of the mountain. They climbed to the top of the mountain. God didn't come down. They climbed and met God somewhere. Maybe it's a struggle you're going through right now. Maybe you're having health issues. Maybe you're trying to raise children and going, I have no clue. Maybe you're fighting with a brother or a sister. Maybe you've got mental health issues. Maybe your heart's broken by things that are happening in the world today. Maybe you're the child going, I don't get it. Why did they make me do this stuff? Wherever you are on the journey, you can be the stubborn teenager, can't you? Ciola, you ever been stubborn? Lock yourself in your room, mom makes dinner, you don't come out, everybody eats it, you don't get any, you have to eat whatever's left over. You never had that happen? We got to have that happen. Britta has. Who here's ever missed out on something because they were too stubborn to go try? They just knew what was going to happen. My first year of seminary, after I had gotten done, they had given me a lot of tools. They taught me a lot of things. And I had been busy learning. And we went to the local fair. And I was struggling because there were a lot of people just kind of messing with my faith. And I walked past this booth. It's one of these tents that's set up, but you have to go into it. And up on the front of the tent it said, come see 3 things God can't do. And my blood started to rise, and we walked past. I got about halfway down the fairway. I looked at my family and said, you know what? I'm done. I walked back, and I had every intention of going in and letting them know exactly what's going on. That's enough of this garbage. Quit messing with my God. Then I stomped in, whipped the tent doors open, and there's nobody there. Just a box with 3 doors on it. 1, 2, 3. Come see 3 things God can't do. God can't lie. God can't hate. God can't forgive you unless you accept it. I walked out of that room about that tall. I was certain I was going to change somebody else's perspective. And I learned a valuable lesson. I can't tell you anything. I can tell you a story, but you got to be there and willing to accept it. But I still need to share the story. I can't tell you how you're supposed to feel. I haven't experienced God the way you've experienced God. I haven't felt God's love and compassion in the same situations you have. I learned a valuable lesson that day. God took a hot-headed 28-year-old kid and said, you need some humility, kid. Go ahead. Take both guns in with you. It'll just be you and me. Who do you think's wisest? Had I not gone back, I wouldn't have had the experience. Whether I did it for the right reason or the wrong, didn't matter. I went. And God did what God does. Led me somewhere else. Showed me a new truth. And reminded me who's in control. I have good news for you, folks. It ain't me. If you came here this morning expecting that this was going to fix all that ails you, this was going to resurrect the dead, all I can do is tell you the story. You have to come along. You have to take the journey. You have to step out in faith, hoping that God's got your back, and realize that above all else, God is not only there, but ready to teach you. And sometimes what God has to teach is you're not ready yet. You need a little bit more knowledge. So they were two ropes, right? One that had a little bit more knowledge to it than the other one. But if you take the same knot, it becomes a longer rope, right? I can do more. I'm stronger this way. I've got the opportunity to grow when I bind with others. Don't sit at home taking this journey by yourself. Don't wait for God to show up and let you know what's going on. Climb the mountain, wherever you're at. Find the beauty that's at the top and listen to what God has to say. Because the beauty of the story, now that we know it, is we are God's chosen ones, God's beloved. And when we follow to the top of the mountain, when we tell the story, when we lead in faith, it is then that God is well pleased. You don't have to worry about who's listening. God will take care of that. But you never get there if you don't climb the mountain. Amen.
Amen.